Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Clickbait. This episode is also a little different. We have been really switching things up on you guys lately. I apologize for that. But I hope we're not boring you because we've been coming out with some great episodes, in my opinion. And today, yes, I have my wife here again, Serena P.
I'm back, everyone. Hope you missed me.
Yeah, I hope they missed you too, because if they didn't, they're not going to want to listen to this. They probably want me gone, honestly. We're not really going to do Bachelor Nation breakdown. We have one thing to talk about. And then we have a very special guest, Courtney Robertson Preciado. She is from Ben Flajnik's season. She got engaged to The Bachelor. She's pretty iconic. She was on Zach's season, the Bad Bitch episode. You remember that?
Yeah, she was bringing the bad bitch energy to that date with Victoria Fuller.
Yeah. I met her. I believe I met her once in California briefly at a bar. I don't know if she remembers, but I'm going to ask her.
Was that before you were on the show or after?
After. But it was like hi, goodbye, like a 2-minute thing. So I don't know if she's going to remember.
Well, you have to ask her.
I'm gonna.
And if she doesn't remember you, cut the interview. She's gone.
Damn straight.
That's how we do it around here.
Damn straight we do. All right. I like this energy. What's up, Serena? What's new?
Nothing much, Joe. Nothing much has changed since I was last here. What's up with you? I like your jacket.
Yeah, you just got it from me.
I did.
I need more colors in my life.
Apparently, yes.
I like black and whites. Okay, so I guess this could spill into the Bachelor Nation breakdown. The only one we really have is I will not be here for the next few weeks because I have an exciting project coming up, so I won't be able to record. So in the interim, there'll be people replacing me. Probably won't be as good, honestly.
Maybe it'll be better.
No. You think so?
No, I don't think so. I think you're the best.
Thank you, Serena.
So we are pre-recording this episode from the comfort of our living room because Joe is leaving very, very shortly.
It's nice recording on a couch, huh?
It is. It's very comfy. And yeah, I'm going to miss you. I'm excited for your project, though.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to miss you, too.
Aw, that's sweet.
Okay, should we get into the clickbait of the week?
I think we should.
All right, I'll let you lead it.
Thank you. I actually asked if I could lead this section of the podcast because I opened the script to see what the clickbait article of the week was, and I was very excited because I actually saw this on a TikTok account that I follow, and they were talking about this story, and I truly could not believe it.
Yeah, okay, because when I look at what the story is, I'm like, okay, this is the dumbest thing I've ever read.
Did you read it, though? Or did you just look at the headline?
I'm just saying the headline. So go ahead. Get into it.
Okay. I'm trying to see if I have it pulled up somewhere. I know I do. It's okay. I know it by heart. So basically, the story is there's a man and a wife. They're a husband and wife. They're married. Okay. Yeah. No kids. They are both employed. The husband is employed as the manager of a fast chain or a food chain. Okay. He manages a food chain. And the wife works at a tech startup. Mm-hmm. The husband has put in his description 500 plus hours of educating himself on like flying planes, essentially. Okay. So he now feels that he should be introduced as a pilot. He's never gone to flight school. He doesn't have a pilot's license and he's never flown a plane. But with like the textbook studies and the simulators, so they go to a party and she introduces him like as her husband and they ask what he does. And she says, oh, he manages a food chain. And she was like, yeah, like, you know, get some good perks and free food, all great. And he basically was like, I'm so insulted. How dare she not introduce me as the pilot that I am? I deserve the recognition. And like, I feel disrespected. And they basically get into a fight about it. And he's like pissed off. And he's basically asking like, am I the asshole? This whole thread is like, am I the asshole for XYZ? So he's asking, am I the asshole for, you know, basically considering leaving my wife because she won't call me a pilot.
This is a Curb Your Enthusiasm episode.
This is a Curb Your Enthusiasm episode. This is a full sitcom episode. Like, it's crazy to me.
One thing I will say, no, he's not a pilot. Like, he's just not a pilot.
No, he's not.
He's just not a pilot. You can't, I'm like, he's not a pilot. So you can't really refer, it's like
That's like me saying, like, I drive a lot of race car video games and I read a lot about race car driving. So I'm a race car driver.
Yeah.
But I've never driven a race car or taken a single lesson.
Or it's like, you fall and scratch your knee and I put a Band-Aid on you and then I'm like,
I'm a doctor.
I'm a doctor. But I will say this is factual. You can be a real estate professional and not flip homes or get your license or anything and file your taxes as a real estate professional if you do a certain amount of research. So I think it might be like 500 hours or 1,000 hours. I don't know what exactly it is, and you are considered a real estate professional.
But what can you do with that like certification? Can you do anything?
You could get money off your taxes, I think.
But you can't like perform any real estate services.
I don't think so.
That's such interesting information. You should tell this guy this because obviously he doesn't feel confident when he is addressed as a food chain manager. So if he wants to be addressed as a real estate professional, he could go study away.
Yeah, well, maybe he might not be a pilot, but is he a pilot professional?
No, he's not.
Well, he could be a pilot professional.
But I'm assuming that's not a real term where he would be demanding to be referred to as a pilot professional.
Well, if he's asking if he's the asshole, I would say, yeah, he's the asshole.
Yeah. What would you do if that was me and I was like, Joe, I've done so much studying. I've done 500 plus hours of studying on being a pilot. Like, I don't want you to refer to me as an influencer. I want you to tell people I'm a pilot. And I was serious. Like, I was dead serious.
And you were serious?
Yeah, I'm not joking around. Like, I feel that I've earned the title of pilot, and I'm mad at you if you refer to me as an influencer or content creator or whatever.
I would probably then really question the person that I thought you were and then probably question our entire relationship. And then I would call some friends and people would be like, what do you think? This just doesn't seem right, or I just don't know how I can move forward. Because I just couldn't
take it seriously.
I couldn't take it seriously.
Yeah.
Yeah. And honestly, that may end our relationship.
I think it might end our relationship too, truly. I think in all seriousness, this man is dealing with some very serious, deep insecurities, specifically revolving around his job and career, but probably with his entire identity. And he should seek professional help. He should go to therapy and work on that because
I think he should just try to become a pilot.
Or
because that's what he wants to do.
He could become a pilot. Would you ever get in a plane with this man?
No. I don't mess around with planes.
What do you mean?
I mean, I'm only getting on a plane with a certified pilot.
Would you get in a plane with Pilot Pete?
Yeah. But Pete flies. Pete flies to like Tel Aviv all the time. So I trust him. Now, Pete's first flight, would I want to get on it? Like I would, but I would be a little hesitant.
Yeah. Yeah, I would not get on a plane. I honestly wouldn't even get in a car with this man. I have no trust for him.
Well, you know what? I hope his relationship makes it through it. And
I'm wishing his wife the best, truly, for having to put up with whatever's going on in that household.
See, or she could just double up and be like, all right, fine. I'll call you a pilot and you're going to call me a doctor.
Yeah, we're just gonna lie to the world. Yeah. You know what another quick thing was? It didn't say it in the article, but it did in the TikTok video I watched, was I think that he undermined her to one of her colleagues and was like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. My wife is just so forgetful sometimes. She forgot that I'm a pilot now. How silly of her. Basically calling his wife stupid and forgetful.
This guy honestly,
to her work colleagues.
This guy honestly sounds kind of awesome. I kind of want to meet this guy. I kind of want to meet this guy because he is something else. And those people don't come along too often. So
by something else, if you mean delusional, then yeah.
I would kind of love to be if I'm at a party with a group of people and this guy's there, I'm entertained.
I know.
I'm having fun with this man.
He might, he'd definitely be fun at a party, just maybe not to be married to.
Yeah. Well, we wish him luck. We wish him luck.
We wish him the best.
I think.
I hope he becomes a pilot. I really do, actually. What a great turnaround story if he comes out and was like, screw everyone that sent me hate. I'm a pilot now.
Okay. Last question before we bring Courtney in. If he does become a pilot, would you get on his flight?
Not his first.
Yeah.
I'd probably say you gotta fly for a year. But at the same time, I get on planes all the time. And I don't know how many flights the pilot has flown.
True.
I could have been on many planes where it was their first flight.
And honestly, he was a professional beforehand. So I would get on his flight.
He has one supporter here and it's Joe.
Yeah. Good for him. Okay. I think right now is the perfect time. I don't think, I know. Everyone, please welcome Courtney to Clickbait. Courtney, what's up? How are you? Welcome to Clickbait.
Hey, thanks for having me. I'm super duper, a little tired. Just got back from LA. We went to After the Final Rose, came home to 2 kids. So it's nice to get a break
Okay.
and then come back to, a little sleepless night.
We want to talk about your experience at After the Rose. But first, do you remember? I met you before. Do you remember?
Yes, I do
You do?
remember.
Okay.
I do.
Nice.
We were at Venice Ale House and I
Told
asked
you.
for a photo, which I have on my phone. And like, it was right after first season of Paradise. And I was like, can I get a picture? I was like, I'm so old school. I was like, they probably don't even know who I am. But yeah, it was lovely meeting you. You were drinking like a coconut drink or something.
Yeah. Yes.
He was so sure. He's like, she's not gonna remember me.
Yeah.
And she's not. I know it. We've met before, but I don't think she's gonna remember me.
I
Yeah.
totally did. I was like a little starstruck. And I'm like, what are the odds? I didn't even live in LA at the time. I had just flown in and I'm like, there's like 3 Bachelor people here in the same place. Like, I have to go say hi.
That place, that bar is actually, that's a great little bar, isn't it?
Oh, it's legit. It's like right on the
Yeah.
boardwalk in Venice and you can sit outside or inside. Oh, that was my go-to.
And they cut open a coconut and they'll pour like tequila or vodka in it and you drink it out of the straw.
Oh, fun! It's
Yeah.
giving like tropical,
Yeah, very tropical.
vibes.
All right. So you, for our listeners, most people know who you are. So you could cut all the humble bullshit out, Courtney. Okay. You are from Ben's season. And that was some time ago. So what brought you back into Bachelor Nation? We saw on this season, you did the bad bitch energy date. And then you were at AFR. So yeah, what brought you back? And then we'll get into that date.
Yeah. So, you know what? I got called in to do a group date with Lotto, which I was like, heck yeah, 24 hours away from the family. My husband was like all about it, supported me. And it was Victoria Fuller, me, and Tajwan to do the what is it? Bad bitch energy. And I didn't even really know until I got there I didn't even know Lotto was going to be there. So it was a really cool experience to be on that end of it, having been, I was the villain of my season and I won the season. So it was a weird situation after the show. My After the Final Rose was not like what I experienced the other night. So it was really fun to kind of get invited back. So yeah, I went and filmed that, had a blast. And then I felt invested in Zach's season and oof, what an ending. So I took my husband out to LA and we just did a little trip to Warner Brothers. It was a blast.
That's so fun. Was it like exciting for him to kind of get to be immersed in that world a little bit?
Yeah, like we were walking into our seats and people were like, Courtney. And like for me, I haven't really been in that world too much, like people don't recognize me that much anymore. And he was like, what's happening? People were awesome.
When you got mic'd up again, were you like, oh, like, what am I doing? Should I be doing this? Did it bring you back at all?
Oh, totally. Like when I went to the bathroom, it's like, are they listening? I had that moment of like, wait, can they hear everything? Like, yeah, but it was fun. It was back in just riding a horse, back on it.
Yeah.
And you said your AFR was different.
Oh yeah.
How?
Yeah.
How?
So for the people who maybe didn't watch, give them a little insight maybe onto your experience on the show, because obviously it was different than what we're seeing now with Katie and Zach's finale.
Oh yeah, totally. The AFR brought back memories for me. My experience was my relationship was a little rocky. I was famous for skinny dipping on my season, which was kind of a big deal because it was a little bit more, I don't know, PG at the time on the show.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So that was like huge news, and the girls lost it after that episode aired. And then Ben and I were kind of we were breaking up essentially, and then we patched up our relationship after I filmed the Women Tell All, which I was the first person, I think maybe last, to do Women Tell All, having like been picked. So we got back together, and then but we were like, pictures surfaced like a few days before our After the Final Rose of him kissing another girl.
Ooh.
Yeah. So Chris Harrison asked all the hard-hitting questions, like where, and they brought me out first. So I think typically it's like they bring the Bachelor out. And so I came out first and like shared how hard it had been being the villain, the skinny dipping stuff, the paparazzi hounding me, and then us potentially breaking up. So he then came out, I'm like crying, and it just was very heavy. Like we didn't get a happy ending, so to
Yeah.
speak. And like the audience was kind of like, "Aw." And so that was a little bit of a bummer. So it was really cool to be there and like see. I mean, obviously Gabby was so upset, and I was sitting near her sister, and we talked a little bit offline before we started recording and stuff. But that was heavy, but then they like switched gears so quickly into like, the audience is clapping for Katie. And I'm sure you guys know what that feels like.
We were saying the exact same thing. We were like, wow, like it's crazy how fast they'll flip the mood of it just being like so heartbreaking for Gabby, and then like jumping into the proposal. It's just like a whirlwind of emotions for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. And like, it's like, you feel for Gabby and everyone does. And then like, yeah, just so quickly, it's like, okay, it's over.
Yep.
Like, yay, yay, Zach
and wrap the
Katie.
show 3 hours.
Yeah.
It's done. But it is interesting because, you mentioned you're famous for skinny dipping on your season, and that was a few years ago. So obviously every season the show evolves and changes a little bit. And now we've got Zach talking about sex and animalistic tendencies, and we've got like people licking toes in paradise. And like, I feel like the show has taken kind of a fun, scandalous turn, which like, I like that it's not as like stigmatized around sex and all of that anymore. But
yeah, it definitely shouldn't be. I mean, now I wouldn't say it's rated R, but it's probably like now it's like PG 17.
Well, I think also like, I feel like it's good. It's good to kind of evolve in that way. And, I felt really bad for Gabby saying like she felt like ashamed. Like I was like, oh, like that hurt a bit.
I do have to ask, so do you think being a villain now with more social media and just how like I would say Bachelor Nation is probably bigger now than it's ever been, do you think it would be harder or easier?
Oh, way harder. Way harder. Yeah, I don't know that I would have been able to handle the backlash because Instagram had just started when my season was airing and I got it. And I was like posting pictures of pancakes and coffee cups, and it wasn't what it is now. But I just can't believe the trolls and the thing. And I still get trolled a little bit, but it's more about like how I'm raising my kids and like it could really, like if you're a sensitive person, I know it's horrible. Somebody message I have to say the other day, and I showed my husband. He's like, Courtney, I'm like, I want to post this and to my story, and he's like, don't play in the mud with the pigs. But she was like, I was giving my son a donut, and she's like, this is why your kids are overweight. Like I know. I mean, like terrible. Stuff like that. And like I was feeding my daughter Pringles, and someone's like, that's too salty. Like, how dare you? But so I deal with different kind of trolls. But going back to the villain status, like I have reached out to other villains from other seasons just to like see how they're doing, because I can't believe how much hate they get and the death threats. And I received death threats after my season, but to my email. But
so people were emailing you.
Yeah, through my modeling. I had a modeling website at the time, and I had to turn it off because, I mean, it wasn't all negative. I hate to make it sound like that. Like there was a lot of people like, we love you, you're so funny. But then, the skinny dipping scene hit, and it was like, I remember I got an email from someone that's like, this is like a wholesome family show. Like you're ruining our family. Like,
oh my God.
And then a couple of death threats, and it didn't really freak me out too bad, but it was just like weird. Like
it is crazy. Like you are overnight like thrown into this world. Like I feel like even now, like I look at content creators that have been doing this for like years and years and years and have built these followings, like people on the show, like really overnight you're like thrown into this world of like you're so vulnerable and exposed, and people have just learned so much about you, and they have this like very like personal access to you like through social media, just being able to like send you, I mean like there's obviously barriers that you can put up, but like just really send you whatever they want about you to an extent.
How about you guys? Do you guys deal with trolls ever, or how do you deal with it, Joe? Because I loved your video. I have to give you a shout out when I don't know if that was real, when you're walking out of the grocery store and you're like you said something to you.
Oh,
yeah. I don't know if that was real, but Joe, I watched that like 5 times, and I was like, I wish I had that energy. Like, I'm more sensitive to the haters, and you're just like, F off.
For me, I always just try to look at it like, I went on a reality show, so you do to an extent have to expect it, and I just like I've gotten lucky because I've looked pretty decent on these shows, and for the most part, I get a lot of positive comments. But we all know the bad ones definitely linger.
They sting
So
a little
I just,
bit.
yeah. So I mean, for me, I really just try not to focus on any of it. Like and just not let it affect me too much, because when you go down that rabbit hole and you start reading them, and it gets dark. And I've done, obviously, like I've been in this world for 4 or 5 years now, so I've done that. But I really, now I've learned my lesson. I'm like, I stay away. kind of.
Yeah. Your
That's
best
good.
advice, and like this is obviously like we have both been very lucky to have not been the villains of our season to an extent. Like obviously you get love and hate from everyone. There's people that like have like love us. There's people that probably don't love us. Like that's just how it goes. But I think people like you that come out as the quote unquote villain of their season have it just so much harder than we've probably ever had to experience it. But you always tell people like you can't listen to the good and you can't listen to the bad, because if you believe all of these good things that people are showering you with and you believe it when they tell you you're amazing and whatever, then you're going to believe it when they tell you that you suck. And you just have to know that like it's nice when they send you kind things, and like you just have to ignore it when they send you hateful things, because like these people don't know you the way your family and your friends do.
But it is also easier coming from me, because I've never been a villain, so I don't know how I would handle that. Like I said, I've gotten lucky because I've always been perceived pretty well. So I can't. I'm not.
I wonder
someone
what that
can
feels like.
pinpoint.
I envy
Yeah, I
you,
mean-
Joe. I really do, because I always think like, what would that feel like? Because for a long time I was embarrassed, and there was this part of me that like I was like, I have to show people who I really am and like kind of prove myself, and I kind of
Well,
lost
that's why
myself.
Yeah, that's why I ask. As far as like if social media was a little more prevalent, because you would obviously get more hate, but you'd be able to speak out a little more. You'd have a little more
Yes.
control. I feel.
I do agree with you there. Like social media has given people like there are people that, and I also think Paradise too has given people kind of that
Yes.
opportunity to have like that second chance. Like we saw
I
that with
wish I
Shanae.
could have gone on Paradise. Yes,
Yeah.
we did. We saw like a totally different side of Shanae.
Yeah.
And like it was like a total 180 for her. So, but I do think with that, it seems like they're really doing a good job of helping people after the show.
Yeah.
I just think people like need help like navigating afterwards, and then dating afterwards is a whole other thing, because having to describe like, hey, I got engaged to this kind of stranger and I was a villain. Yeah, I did go skinny dipping. And most guys don't really watch the show. It's more of like a fan
Right.
base of females. So I feel like the guys coming off kind of get a lot of attention from women, whereas guys to women, for me at least, it was kind of like I was getting either people that were really sexual and like thought of me as this like person that wasn't really me to some
Like
degree.
a sex symbol almost.
Yes, like, oh my
Yeah.
God, this girl's wild, and then I got other people who were just like, I don't get it. Like, you went on The Bachelor.
I have a question. What was I going to ask? Oh, so you talk about how men kind of either you felt like fetishized in a way, or like you were unattractive due to the fact that you went on the show. So kind of you're married now. Like what was that experience like getting to know your husband, dating your husband, and has he ever watched the show? Did he watch the show?
Yeah, and how long after the show did you meet him?
So let me see. I'm like, he helped me with the math, guys. I have mom brain. So I did the show at 28 and I met him at 36.
Okay.
And I had other relationships, like a 2-year relationship, but I never told somebody I love you until I met my husband.
Okay.
Kind of
that's so
weird, but
sweet.
yeah, I just was like, I'm not gonna like move in with somebody and like be serious with somebody until I know for sure it's the one. So yeah, and then he handled it really well. Actually, he was refreshing. I had moved back to Arizona. I was in Santa Monica for about 14 years. And Joe, in LA, like the dating pool is totally different. I don't know if you spent time there, but I was going out with comedians and some actors here and there, and they understood the show. They kind of got a kick out of it, and they just wanted to hear the ins and out of it. But they were like commitment phobe guys. So anyway, I moved back to Arizona. I meet my husband 2 years after being back here. We lived on the same block, like 4 blocks away from each other. And
nice.
he knew I thank the show for meeting him, because he knew who I was from the show. That's the silver lining. And he had been liking my photos for about 2 years. And I remember seeing him in my feed. You know how your feed looks crazy? But every once in a while I'll look and I'm like, God, I've seen him before. Maybe we met in I didn't follow him back or something at like a real estate event. So I messaged him, I'm like, have we met before? He's like, no, I remember meeting you. So yeah, we went out 3 days later and it was just like instant. And
So
so
he was
the show
liking-
didn't turn him off.
So he was liking your photos and you hit him up first?
Yeah.
Nice.
Wow.
He said he would have never DM'd
A little
me.
Instagram, a little
Wow.
Instagram advice.
That
of how to
works,
get them
yeah.
to slide into the DMs.
Wow.
Yeah, and I need a little edge. He had a little edge to him. He's all tatted up, and it just was different. I guess going back to like dating in LA to dating in Phoenix, I was having no luck, and I just met this great guy, and we watched the show together now. But I will say there was some growing pains. Like, so for example, like when we announced our engagement and our pregnancy, People magazine did a feature, and he had never experienced that part of. It's a weird thing. Like Us Weekly did a story, and then it's like this really nice article about us, and then it's like skinny dipping, the book, the tell-all,
Yeah.
everything I talked about in like my whole life. And he's like, my parents are reading this. This is like kind of like, yeah, it's cool, but it's also like, do we really need that?
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. You mentioned the book. So you came out with a book after your season called I Didn't Come Here to Make Friends. What kind of inspired that?
So, you know what, guys, it's crazy. So it was so hard to pick a name. Like and we couldn't use the word bachelor, obviously. And
Yeah.
in like any reality TV show, doesn't matter what it is, like there's always somebody who says, I didn't come here to make friends, whether it be whatever reality show. But I decided to write a book after Ben and I broke up. I quickly moved on with Ari. Total oopsie poopsie. It was literally like probably like a week after we ended our engagement publicly. Somebody took a picture of me on a date with Ari, and then Ben was like so mad at me, like respectively so.
Yeah, well, I mean, your relationship's over.
Well, that's how I felt. But
Yeah,
like,
you're a single woman.
I was
Did
like
you-
pretty
did you happen to-
heartbroken.
Did you watch Ari? You know I was going to ask this.
I knew you were going to bring this
Did you
up.
watch Ari on Traders, on that show Traders?
No, I haven't had a chance to watch yet. You guys, my TV time is limited. So, and then with the Zach season, but I
Yeah.
want to
Of
watch.
course.
And I thought he would, I heard he was doing it. And I was like, I know Ari so well, he's going to win the thing. But then I read the
Yeah.
spoilers. So I don't want to spoil
Yeah.
anything. But I
He didn't win,
heard
but
you
he-
like it.
Yeah, I think it's
We
great.
recently binged it. Any chance to bring up Ari on Traders,
Yeah.
Joe's been taking. So the minute you said his name, I was like, he's going to bring up Traders.
Dude, you
He's gonna
got to
bring
get
up
him on the
Traders.
horn. You got to pick his brain.
I know,
Yeah.
we should.
Okay, so
So, going back to writing the book, the reason
book,
I did
yeah.
it was after that happened. Sorry to make a long story short. Ben had
No,
came
no.
out and because out of being hurt, said something along the lines of like, I should have listened to the girls. And I was just like, he's
That's
piling
hurtful.
on. Like we were together for a year. We were talking about moving in together. Like he knows me to the core. And I felt like it was a cheap shot. And I was like, I felt like it's like you, Serena, saying like, now people have more of a platform. I didn't. And also there's a way, like you can't really defend yourself. Like I wasn't going to blame editing because I did say those things. I did say
Yeah.
some kind of
Mhm.
snarky things. So in that moment when he said that, I was like, I'm going to write a book and I'm going to tell my side of the
Mhm.
story. And it's going to be cathartic. And I had no clue it was going to do so well. I mean, I sent my manuscript to 5 publishers and I only got 1 offer from HarperCollins. So it was a pretty cool experience to go through that and do a book tour. And
That's awesome. And I
very
feel like
anxiety
at that,
crippling.
I can imagine. I feel like at that time too, like that was your way of like using your voice and sharing your story because
Yeah.
without, social media platform, which are obviously a lot bigger now, there's a lot more avenues to kind of speak up for yourself.
Twitter, like Jax Taylor, I used to know from my modeling days, and he was on the red carpet and he's like, oh yeah, I used to date Courtney. And I just went to Twitter. I was like, boop, boop, boop. No, we never dated. Like,
Yeah.
he was friends with an ex-boyfriend of mine, but like, yeah, it was nice to kind of to share my side. And
Mhm.
Ben wasn't happy with it, and we're fine now. Ben and I have actually reconnected. We were reconnected before I met my husband, like probably a year prior, and we kind of talked about like, should we try this again? And he kind of forgave me for the book, and I get it. Like I shared a lot, and I had to break up with someone I was writing it because he's like, well, what are you going to share? He was super insecure about it, and I was like, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to like
you
share
got to
everything.
do it all.
You
Yeah.
get it, right, Joe? Like it's
Yeah.
like, and that was
I
what
get
was
it.
like really. I'm like, oh, my grandma read it. She's 93, and She loved it. But I talk about sex in there. And back then, I was 30 at the time when it came out. It was still very racy.
Like taboo.
When you were once you had finished it and you pitched it out, were you worried that there was a chance it wasn't going to get picked up, or did you not really like? How were you feeling?
The first agent I sent it to wrote back notes that was like, "This is garbage. This is never going to see the light of day," basically. And I sent her a signed copy once we hit the New York Times bestseller list. Had to do it.
Nice.
Had to
Good
do
for you.
it.
Good for you.
Nice.
That's great.
And then my co-author, I sent her like the first chapter I wrote, and that's actually the first chapter. And I said, "Hey, can you bump this up?" She used to be the editor-in-chief of Life and Style. And she had done the rounds of all the New York rag mags. So she really had contacts to help promote the book. And she actually was doing bad stories on me during my season. So we got really close, and yeah, not to go too far into it, but I feel like everybody's got a story to tell. And I was so glad I was able to share my full story and give the fans a little bit of inside tea.
What would if you had to give anyone advice from Bachelor that wants to write a book right now? Because there's a lot of books. A lot of Bachelor alum come out with books. I don't know how well they do.
Mm-hmm.
So to write a successful book, what would your advice be?
I think a lot of them do pretty well, no?
I'm sure some of them do, but I don't know how.
Right.
I don't know if any of them have made a bestsellers list.
I mean,
They may have.
Andy Dorfman did, but obviously she's been on a couple seasons. And she has my book as actually she signed it. She was smart. She went about it the right way. But I would say write everything down, because I mean, your memory just goes so quickly. Like I journaled on my season, text messages, don't delete. I had a lot of that involved. And then also I got sidebars from past contestants. So like I had Jillian Harris, like promoting my book. Like we're in this kind of network of people that will help support you to make it successful. But again, going back to like sharing it all, like, I mean, do you want to read like half truth, or do you want to read what it was really like in the fantasy suites? Going back to fantasy suites, I was the last one, and I talked about everything we talked about. And I know Ben felt like I overshared about our sexual relationship stuff, and I'm not saying that you have to, sex does sell, but for me, I wanted to tell everything, the whole story, to make it interesting. But it depends on what you're looking for. I know Hannah Brown wrote a book, and I love talking about money. Like, so my book deal was $50,000, and then I still get residuals. I don't sell that many anymore. It's like a couple grand here or there, twice a year. It's kind of nice. And at that time, Joe, I needed the money because the modeling gigs were running up. They were like, "You're a villain." Like, I had these better clients like Target and Steinmart that booked me regularly, and they're like, "We need to put a pin in this because you have all this media around you." So I needed the money.
Yeah.
That is the scary thing with the show.
I bet Hannah Brown's also did really well.
Yeah.
Were you worried at all? Did you even consider that before you went on the show, of potentially going on the show and looking bad?
So I remember I was with Ford at the time, and I called my agent and I was like, "Hey, what do you guys think of this?" And they're like, we don't think it's going to help your career, but we don't think it's going to hurt it. And I wasn't, not a million years did I think I'd be the villain. I really didn't. Yeah. And then I watched the first episode, and they were like, they showed my little package, they didn't show any of the things like about my career or my past heartbreaks or any of that stuff. And I was like, oh boy, I'm in trouble. I'm in trouble. So yeah, I was a little bit, just kind of had to pick myself up by the bootstraps and like, what's next, and make it happen.
Well,
yeah. Good for you.
Yeah. And that's what you do.
Has your husband read the book, and do you think your kids would ever like watch the season or read your book when they get older?
I think so. It's like maybe though, and that's what one thing that was hard in the beginning. Like I was like, well, you should have done your homework, like all this stuff was like, he kind of, once we got serious, he started hearing more things, but he's totally cool with it now. We're married with 2 kids, but I remember him saying like, what happens one day when somebody comes up to Joaquin at school and, it was like, your mom wrote this in the book. I'm like, tell him to tell them that his mom,
off.
Yeah, and that his mom is a New York Times bestseller, and she worked her ass off, and that we support that kind of energy. So
I love that.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
There's always going to be those haters out there, and here's the thing: you can't keep everybody happy.
Yeah,
truly. do you have any relationships with any of the women from your season anymore? Or like, because you were the so-called villain, right? So there was obviously some controversy between you and the women in the house.
Yeah, I talked to one of my best friends was a producer on my season, and then Casey Steamer, who I just had on my podcast recently, and then Jacqueline Schwartz, who was actually on Paradise. I don't know if she was on yours, Joe. I think it was the one before. She also did Bachelor Pad, and then a couple of the other girls, Jamie Otis, who was on Married at First Sight. We just kind of fly by message here and there, but more so people from other seasons. Like I'm very close with Olivia Caridi, and Jason and Molly Mesnick. We fly by message here and there, but that kind of stuff, more so from other seasons.
When you were single, did they ever reach out for you to come back and do Paradise?
Or Bachelor Pad or...
Yeah, so actually Paradise. I was in talks to do it, and I had just started dating someone that I really liked at the time in Venice. And I remember saying to him, like, kind of like testing the waters, like, what would you think if I did the show? And my book had just came out, and I was like, this would be great for sale, like it'd be great to put myself back
You're like,
out
how
there.
into me are you? Like, is this long term? Is this another 2 months? Like, how invested should I be?
I was like, if he would have been like, yeah, go do it, I would have been like, bye. Here we are, adios. But yeah, so at the end of the day, I didn't do it. I ended up dating him for a while. But I will say I had a lot of the guys sliding into my DM that were going on. Chris Bukowski.
Chris! He's a friend of ours.
And he's a good friend of Jacqueline's. And he came to my book launch in New York. And so I had already met him. And Brooks Forrester, I don't know if you remember him. So yeah, there was a lot of that. And then the girls that were going on were messaging me. Like people were kind of like staking their claim. And I remember, Graham Bunn was going on that season. And I kind of thought he was cute. And we had like played in a Bachelor charity soccer game together. And so like we had met a few times. And I remember thinking like, would we hit it off down there? And then a girl that wanted to date him really bad that I know reached out to me as well and was like, he's mine, basically. Like I'm going down there for him. And then there was somebody else. Who was it? Who was the girl? It was Claire. I think, did Claire go down to Paradise?
Crawley?
Yeah.
She did.
Yeah, she did.
And Claire and I were messaging
she might have done Paradise twice.
Did you get along with Claire, or were you guys enemies?
I didn't. Well, obviously I didn't do the show, but we get along great. We did a couple of charity events together. Yeah, so I think Claire was interested in Graham Bunn too. And I remember I'm like, oh my God, they're both messaging me about him. And of course it makes me think like, wait, should I go down there and meet him? So yeah.
Well, I think he's still single, right? He was on Clickbait a few years ago. We had him on.
I think he's an eligible bachelor. And and then so Brooks Forrester flew out to meet me in California before he decided to do it. Yeah. So yeah, and we didn't really, it was weird. It was like he came and like I was kind of dating this other guy and he was like, I just want to meet you. Like I've always had a crush on you. Like let's see if there's anything here. But I might be doing the show. It was like a weird kind of thing.
Yeah. I feel like that happens a lot.
There's the tea for you.
Yeah. There's the tea.
I feel like that happens a lot too. I feel like a lot of like people will be hesitant to like jump into a relationship if they know they're potentially going to be cast on Paradise. I think like that.
Yeah, you're like one foot in, 1 foot out. But I had met Chris Bukowski and we had made out in New York after my book launch party. And then he was messaging me like, I'm going down there. And I was like, can't we just like do this in real life? Like we kind of had a connection and then I was like, I'm not doing it. And then he ended up doing like 3 other shows. I think that was the year he went back on like Andy's season or something. I'm like, this guy, he's still show up to the opening of an envelope.
Well, we hooked him up with his current girlfriend.
Yeah, we set him up with Anna.
You guys did?
They're happy.
We did, because Anna was on my season and Joe was out having drinks with Chris and I was on FaceTime with Anna at the same time and he came back and I was like, Joe, you got anyone for Anna? Like, let's set her up with someone. And he was like, oh my God, I was just out with Chris. Yeah. Let's make this happen. So.
All right. Before we let you go, besides being a mother of 2, what else you got going on?
So I just started my podcast. It's titled Off Contract, referring to me. It's just for fun. Don't get freaked out. I just got to keep it spicy. And I've been really enjoying it. Honestly, it's something I can do from home. I'm in my man cave right now. And my husband's super supportive. And then I'm selling real estate full time. But with interest rates hiking and the market getting a little squirrely, I was like, I I got to keep feeding my kids. So I was like, this platform isn't going anywhere. And I love learning a new skill set, which, by the way, kudos to you guys. Interviewing and getting guests, it's a skill set that you really need to hone in on. So I'm getting better, but we'll see how
I'm sure you're great.
Oh, that's kind of you to say. Well, come on sometime if you ever feel like dishing, or if you want to promote something. But yeah, that's really it. Just my kid goes to preschool, and we've been talking about maybe having a third. But I'm turning 40 this summer, which is a good thing. I'm excited, and I'm just trying to plan a 40th birthday bash. So excited.
Where are you going? Do you have
I don't
any clue?
know. I have no clue. I'm like picturing like a light up dance floor on the beach somewhere with an
Ooh.
open bar.
You should do.
Tulum.
I would go. I was going to say Cabo. You should go
Tulum or Cabo.
You really?
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
I've been like I'm like I need to plan it because it's in July and we're it's coming up quick. So looking forward to that, and then a summer trip for us. So what's next for you guys though? I know you guys are wedding planning. Serena, I cannot wait to see your dress. You are just like this. She's this most stunning little angel. What are you gonna wear, Joe?
You know what?
Are you gonna
Joe's
go
a
funny? Or are you gonna go?
Joe's a bougie
I'm not gonna go
bitch.
funny.
Joe's
I'm
a
a
bougie bitch.
I'm a very indecisive person, so I have been going
Same.
back and forth, like tuxedo, just a suit, tie, bow tie. So I don't know when I actually make a move to really figure it out. It's probably going to be how I feel that day, and I think.
Are you gonna show up in like a top hat with a
No,
cane,
no,
like
no,
Dumb
no,
and
no.
Dumber?
No, that's
No,
not
no.
gonna fly.
No, I'm thinking tuxedo, bow tie, black, white. I
Classic.
think that's gonna. I think that's
Classic.
gonna be. I
yeah.
think that's gonna be my move.
By the
but-
way, I gotta say, I got my husband a really nice watch as a wedding gift.
Did
And
you?
nice.
I gave it to him in the morning of our wedding, and then we separated. And he's like, I feel really bad. I feel like an asshole. I didn't get you anything.
Oh.
I'm like, babe, you got me this baby
Take-
and this ring. So I just wanted to throw that out there, whether it be
Okay.
a frame picture. Yes, you got to do a wedding gift the day of.
I'd like to take full credit for this ring, but I also,
But you can't.
I also got to gift it.
But you can't.
So
I actually
Lucky.
think the insurance on this ends this June. We might have to get this insured.
yeah, we might.
You better do that quick. I just had
Probably a
mine
good
renew.
idea.
That's what I'm
So,
gonna get.
I'll be
That's my
looking-
wedding gift.
That's your gift.
Joe will insure my engagement ring.
Very practical. Well, you
Yes.
guys, you are so fun. I can't wait to see what happens next for you guys. And I know you guys are already married, so congratulations. I love your style. I love that you did it that way. We had a small wedding with 20 people, and
Oh, that's
it was during
great.
So
COVID. We
nice.
couldn't
Yeah.
I already
Yeah.
paid for the venue, and they were like, it's all non-refundable, but you can't have that many people. So we
Yeah.
were
Yeah.
in a tough spot. So anyway, just enjoy. You guys are so cute. I'm your big fans over here.
Oh,
you as well,
thank
and thank you so much for taking the time and coming on. We really appreciate
Yes,
it.
Anytime.
we hope to see you in the audience at a few more.
I hope you make
AFRs.
it. You should honestly. You should do every bad bitch date. Have them call you as a
Yeah, make it
as a
your
regular.
I
thing.
would love
That's
that.
your
Or I'd
thing.
love to come in
Season.
and like shake things up in the house. Like if one of the girls is getting bullied, I'm like, bring me in there. Let me handle this.
Yeah, act as like
down
the
that.
house mediator.
Are you drinking wine
But-
out of a straw, by the way, Joe, or is that coffee?
It's coffee. It's too early to drink wine. I'm not drinking wine out of a straw.
Not quite yet.
Not yet.
Maybe
I'm
later.
not at that point. Cool. Well, Courtney, thank you so much. We really
Yes,
appreciate it.
yes,
And,
absolutely.
yeah, you were great. What did you think of Courtney?
I thought she was lovely.
Yeah,
she
she's
was
cool.
so sweet, very open, and just like willing to share about her experience, which is always fun for us to hear about.
Yeah, and she remembered me.
She did remember
She-
you.
she remembered me.
I'm so
Nice.
happy for you. No, she was great. It was lovely having her on. And Joe, thank you so much for having me on Clickbait again today. And thank you to our listeners for tuning in.
Serena, you're very welcome. And as always, to all our listeners, make sure you subscribe and submit all your questions. We want to know what clickbait you want us to get into. Make sure to check us out on social. Comment, like, Clickbait BN on Instagram. All the links to all our socials are right there on that page.
Share your stories with us. We want to know what clickbait you're looking at this week. And Prime members, make sure to listen to Clickbait ad-free on Amazon Music. Download the Music app today, or you can listen ad-free with Wondery Plus in Apple Podcasts. But before you go, tell us about yourself by completing a short survey at Wondery.com/survey.
Serena, thank you so much for being here. And to our listeners, I will not be here next week, but somebody will. So make sure you listen. And I'll see you guys in a few weeks. Bye.
Bye.